Welcome back, everyone. I am unfortunately not joined by my usual co-host today. As you know, it's been very smoky out here in DC because of the Canadian wildfires that they probably started on purpose. And so we didn't really want to go outside for 4th of July. We wanted to stay in, have more of an indoor thing. But we still wanted to have fireworks, obviously, because, we love fireworks. We love America. And so we just lit them all off indoors. And I'm not talking about like poppets and Twizzlers or whatever those things are called. Not Twizzlers. Sparklers. We were setting off real fireworks. They're intended to go up, 50 feet in the bunker where we usually record. And so my co-host sustained really severe burns to his face and hands, which made recording pretty much impossible. And he's in stable condition now. He's been in a stable condition for the past few hours, I'm told, by his doctor. But, I say all this just to let you know why it's just going to be me on the episode today. Hopefully we get him back soon, but there's really no telling what exactly is going to be possible with these doctors. There's a lot of quacks out there. Anyway, I want to talk about Starseeds today. Now, from my experience trying to talk about starseeds with people in real life, most people have not even heard about starseeds. But starseeds are people who believe that they are aliens. And this is the name that they have given themselves, starseeds. You may also hear the term star child, which is even more hippie and new age sounding. Although that's less common, and starseed is now really the big term that you're going to see getting used a lot. And starseeds, they look like people. They don't think that they're, gray aliens walking around. They look like people, but they are in fact aliens from other worlds. And, one of the best articles that you can find about starseeds is from Gaia.com, which, as frequent listeners will know, is a site that I enjoy sourcing a lot. And I think it's a really great website. Now, their big article about starseeds, I'm going to be quoting it fairly extensively here, because I really found it to be enjoyable. So, it explains at first, how do we know that there are starseeds? How do we know all this stuff? And it just says, the ideas and concepts around starseeds come to us through channelers and seers, who regularly connect with the Akashic records. These records comprise the energetic imprints of all intentions, thoughts, emotions, relationships, creations, and events ever to have occurred throughout every race, in all the realms, throughout all of space-time. Those are pretty expansive records that they're accessing here. So essentially, according to this article, we know about starseeds because people like Sam the Illusionist, who I interviewed, people like these channelers, they speak to aliens psychically, and aliens told them about starseeds. Now, this is actually not where the concept of starseeds comes from at all. I'll be getting into the actual origin of starseed as a concept more towards the end of the episode. But this is what they like to think anyway. And what I enjoyed about this explanation is that, it seems to imply that these people have access to vast amounts of knowledge. What does it say? Every event to have ever occurred throughout all of space-time. And yet, the only thing they use this knowledge for, these channelers, is to, make YouTube videos and articles and do paid, channel readings for people and have Patreons. That's the only use they can come up for with something that seems to embody all the knowledge in the entire universe, which is interesting. But, really not that atypical for a conspiracy. People who claim to have powerful esoteric knowledge that they got from, Wikipedia, YouTube, Twitter, infographics, Reddit. People don't usually do that much with this esoteric knowledge that they gain. Usually it's good to, discuss with other people on the internet, and you can sit around and you can lay in bed. but it's not something that really seems to help these people very much. They're not like, Mulder from the X-Files driving around getting stuff done. It's really more about just, it's good to know. It's good to know that, you're a starseed and there's other starseeds. The article, later it explains why starseeds are on Earth in particular. Why would an alien want to be on Earth? And it says that Earth is an evolving, stable, three-dimensional planet with an equal balance of physical and angelic experiences. Because of this, millions of starseeds may have chosen to live among us. So what we see here is that in terms of real estate, Earth sort of has it all. We have the physical, and we have the angelic. So you could, if you were an alien and you chose to live on Earth, you could, for instance, be stabbed in the bathroom of a Wendy's. And that would be more of a physical experience. But there's also we have the equal balance. We have the more angelic experiences. That would be something like you could see the moon at night, and you could say, "Wow, look at that! Look at Earth's moon. This is really nice." I think that's probably what they're talking about here, although I'm not totally sure. In a more practical way, this article also attempts to explain how exactly starseeds get to Earth. So how do these people think that they arrived at Earth? Well, the biggest one, and the one you're going to hear about the most from starseeds, is reincarnation. They used to be an alien in a past life, and they've reincarnated as a human. So they're still an alien, but physically at the moment, they are a human. They've reincarnated into a human. It's kind of like Doctor Who in that respect. Kind of. I guess he still has the multiple hearts. I'm a little bit rusty on my Doctor Who lore since I appropriately stopped watching in middle school. But there are other ways to get to Earth as an alien. There are physical descendants of aliens who walk among us, according to this article. You can also be, quote, birthed through interconsciousness conception. I don't know what that means, but that could happen. Like a mind child, which I believe happened in Greek mythology. I think that's, I don't remember. Zeus had like a brain child, and it was someone. It was, one of the other gods. I'm not really big on the Greeks. Don't really care for them too much. There is another way, which is, quote, this is probably the best one. Any soul can become a starseed when another starseed infuses the soul with intentional light. This can occur when souls are in utero or at any other point in their lives, which this seems to imply that according to them, somebody could turn you into a starseed. They could turn you into an alien by suddenly giving you a blast of this light. So you could just be walking around one day, hanging out, and then all of a sudden somebody like an alien like flashes their high beams at you, and you are turned into an alien. I don't know if this could be something that's happening a lot. This article also has good questions that the reader should ask themselves to figure out if you are a starseed. So I'm sort of going to ask these questions to you, and you can figure out if you're a starseed. You can figure out if you actually buy into this whole idea. So the first one is, you might be a starseed if you have a quiet sense that you came from somewhere beyond this planet. Now, I don't see why the sense has to be quiet, because as I'll get into later, a lot of people never shut up about this sense they have that they're from another planet. And they're on TikTok, and they're on TikTok all day discussing it. But basically, if you have a sense that you came from somewhere else, you could be a starseed. So kind of like, do you imagine that you're a starseed? Maybe you are a starseed. That's really a good reasoning to go off of. And another one. Can you imagine your physical appearance from prior lives in other worlds? So again, this is sort of in your imagination. Like, oh, can you imagine that you are an alien and that you were a gray little man or a cat? Well, maybe you were. Maybe that's because you were. Do you fantasize about life in other galaxies with the hope of incarnating elsewhere in future births? That's a pretty specific one. If you have that specific fantasy, you could be a starseed. Do you wonder how you got here? And if you'll ever return? That one's pretty specific too. If you sit around wondering, how did I get on Earth? Not in an existential sort of way. I think that's fairly normal. But if you sit around and you think, why am I on Earth instead of Andromeda? That would be a sign that you are a starseed, according to this article. But one of the things I really like about this article is that it goes on to say, quote, you might never know whether or not you are genuinely starseed. So it doesn't say there's any sort of guaranteed way to know. It's really up in the air. Now, this article is on Gaia Online, which is a crazy website full of nonsense and conspiracies. However, this article is bizarrely self-aware and includes this part where it says, we all seek belonging, alignment, or kinship with a person, family group, culture, or society to fill our hearts and inspire us. We crave acceptance and connection to help us identify where we might belong. We adorn ourselves with labels that make us feel special or unique. We might say, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, or I'm a recovering Catholic, or I'm a conservative Democrat. We might even say, I am Starseed, Pleiadian to be precise. Whether they're based in truth or not, we love our temporary self-identities. When traditional titles and archetypes fail us, we hunt elsewhere, even into the stars. This is not to say that your reality as a starseed is incorrect. It's to offer the idea that some, if not all, of our birth, imagined and assumed identities could be illusions. Now this is so painfully self-aware as to what the actual cause of all this nonsense is, that it makes me wonder if the author, just wrote this to hit a word count to get paid, and they actually don't believe any of it. But I really cannot tell. The sincerity of this is really tough to grasp, because right after dropping this massive bomb on the reader, it goes on to talk about some of the different kinds of aliens that you might be. So it goes right from that, it goes right from the actual explanation, which could potentially make even a delusional person think twice, into, are you a Sirian? That would mean you're from the planets orbiting Sirius. And those are where the water beings are from, like mer people. Also, that's where Jesus and Mary are from, supposedly. I can only assume that some channeler informed them of that. Now there's Pleiadians, but Pleiadian is an alien you could be. Now the Pleiadians are, quote, a matriarchal society that elevates women, children, and families. So Pleiadians are very, very liberal. Maybe if you feel like you were a liberal in a past life, you were a Pleiadian. The Arcturians, they say, are the most advanced. So those are kind of the coolest ones. I imagine them as being like the Protoss in StarCraft. I really mostly played Terran, though, back in the day. I wasn't really a Protoss guy. The Andromedans. The Andromedans they're sort of like the main character aliens. They're like really badass, and they're all about battling the reptilians. The reptilians are pretty much what you think they are. They're the evil aliens who disguise themselves as people. So you got like Hillary, Biden, Obama, Klaus Schwab, Ellen DeGeneres, like your teacher who like gave you a bad grade, like your boss, that person you saw for like a second and they kind of like a shadow, and like you weren't sure if they were there. Those are the reptilians. Now this article also says that there is an alien race called Rainbow, and it says, quote, often diagnosed with some form of autism, Rainbow children are the latest wave of healing souls to come to Earth. Now, I think this is not good. You should not be telling, autistic children who might be on the internet that they could literally be an alien, because people with autism, tend to already feel out of place and like strangers because they struggle to fit into a neurotypical society. So you probably do not want to tell them that they might literally be from another planet. This could potentially be bad. Then you have the Orions. Now the Orions, this is what it says about the Orions. It says, quote, "The Orions will ask questions about every detail." So that makes the Orions really sound like they're kind of like nerd emoji, Redditor types who will be like, "Are you sure about that? Do you have a source for that?" Actually, I read that, and then it also says that while some Orions have spiritual aspirations, others are agents for the reptilians and other races that seek to control Earth rather than emancipate it. So basically, with the Orions, you have these sort of annoying nerds who work for Biden, and they work for the reptilians, probably doing math and things like that, and like statistics. I think this would be the worst alien to be. If I found out that I was a starseed and this was all real, this is the last one I would pick. Definitely not want to be Orion. This is definitely the most cringe alien who asks questions about every detail. Then you have the Lemurians and the Atlanteans. Those are absolutely classic alien races. I'm not really going to go into detail there. You guys, all the real listeners already know about Lemuria and Atlantis. I could go on. I could talk about Nadia, Secret of Blue Water, but people don't. You guys get the idea at this point. Now, when you're thinking about, am I a starseed? The author really stresses that physical traits are not important. Anyone can be an alien. And there's a part where, it says, hey, people think that you have to be tall and skinny to be an alien, because like fashion models look kind of weird in Alien. But that's really not what it's about. It says you could be a fat alien. Anyone can be an alien. It's not about, being a certain race. Anyone can be an alien. It's very inclusive. Another sign, it says that when it comes to emotional intelligence and empathy, starseeds may be more expanded in these categories. So if you have very high emotional intelligence, there's a good chance that you're a starseed. Now, I would say if you have high real intelligence, there's almost no chance that you're a starseed. I think you could safely say that you're probably not going to be a starseed. I went looking for other articles. I enjoyed this article a lot, but I always like to, scan around and get a broader picture. There was an article on popular mechanics. I'm not a regular reader of popular mechanics. I'm mostly aware of popular mechanics as being the arch nemesis of 9/11 people. Because popular mechanics is or they were at one point. They probably don't talk about it much anymore, because nobody really talks about it much anymore. But at one point, they were very dedicated to supporting the official 9/11 narrative. So they had tons of stuff coming out about how, everything the government said about 9/11 was true. Don't ask any questions. Don't worry about it. And so they became like the arch nemesis of the 9/11 truthers. And beyond that, don't really know much about popular mechanics. But I find that's sort of a funny battle to me. It's like the battle between like local, like town level governments and people who want to get fluoride out of the water. That's another big like rivalry. Now they had an article about starseeds. It was pretty boring. Basically just said like, hey, can you believe that people think they're aliens? What's up with that? Didn't really go beyond that. But it had an amazing top comment that was by a starseed that said, contrary to popular belief, we don't wake up in the morning and go to work like everyone else because we can't. The universe won't allow us. The universe won't let us. Allow me to explain. And what followed was a huge wall of text comment talking about how they're a starseed, how they can't function in normal society. And it was basically about how if you're a starseed, you really can't be expected to have a job. which I think this would be the most hilarious excuse for not having a job ever. Dad, I can't get a job. I'm an alien. I'm not filling out those applications you gave me. I'm not moving out. I'm not getting a job. I'm an alien. And this is why I cannot be expected to work. And this is why I'm not leaving my room. And you and Mom need to stop bugging me. And I enjoyed these articles and comments. But if you really want good Starseed content, you need to go to TikTok. TikTok is now the #1 hotspot for Starseeds. Not ancient forums, where boomers are, leaving posts with like huge signatures underneath. It's all on TikTok. You gotta get with the times. The Starseed hashtag on TikTok. Because TikTok has hashtags like Twitter. I'm explaining this because I know, I'm convinced that everyone who listens to this podcast is older than I am. So you guys might not know about TikTok. I don't know about TikTok either, but I do now. And the Starseed hashtag has 1.3 billion total views, which is a lot. Like whenever I see a YouTube video that has 1 billion views, which like it's almost never, because that's crazy. Now, granted, not all the videos on the Starseed hashtag are strictly about Starseeds. I've seen the Starseed hashtag really be appropriated and misused, which is a shame. But a lot of it does pertain to the actual Starseed discussion and lore. They follow a pretty similar pattern. The video starts, and maybe the person who made the video will be in it for a sec. This song will play. Little Dark Age starts playing. And then it's like, hey, you watching, do any of these pictures seem familiar to you? And then like it'll be a random like sci-fi concept art from DeviantArt. like look at this purple city. Look at this like cyberpunk thing I found on DeviantArt. Look at this like big building with like vines. Look at this picture I found on the Atlantis hashtag. And then the song really slows down. It's like the remix. Because kids like the slowed versions of songs now. And then it says, if you remember any of this, if this looks familiar to you, you're an alien. And then you go to the comments, and it works. All the comments on these videos are saying like, wow, why is this so familiar? Whoa, it's like I've really been there. It's like I've really been to that like DeviantArt image. It's like I've really been to outer space. Like this is not like a meme conspiracy. This is a real thing that people actually think. Like kids, I don't know if it's kids. Kids go on TikTok, see pictures of like purple cities, and then they think that means that they're from outer space. Literally. I mean, you really cannot make this stuff up. What's kind of funny is that watching all these Starseed videos, this is like the most time I've ever spent on TikTok at once. Because I'm a little bit out of touch with the kids. I'm slightly too old to be one of the kids, even if I'm not as old as all you guys who listen to this. And what I realized is that as far as conspiracy stuff is concerned, TikTok is pretty much the same insanity. It's just in a new, like, weird format. Like, you used to go and look at this stuff, and it'd be on like really old websites with like weird fonts, yellow text on a black background. But now it's like an attractive like e-girl telling you about like aliens, and there's like music in the background while they're talking about the aliens, and there's like sketches. Like it'll be like somebody playing two different people, and they have like a fake conversation, and it's like a skit, and it's like, hey, did you know that the government has confirmed the existence of aliens? And then it cuts to the other person and they're like, what? No way. This is what conspiracies are now. This is the new format for conspiracies. It's not going to be a book or like a weird website or some boomer forum. It's going to be like a little music video. There's going to be a little music video, and then that's how Zoomers are going to learn that they were aliens all along. And the other thing I learned about from this, again, maybe you already know about this. You don't know about this. You guys are old. I'm actually pretty old too. But the Starseed hashtag is very frequently combined with the witchtok hashtag. So there's a lot of crossover between the Starseed community of aliens and the witchtok community of witches. Now, what this is Zoomer women who have like videos where they explain how to cast a spell. Like if you burn this rose petal in your room, which is full of like Christmas lights, and then you like say the name of like the principal of your school, they will like have a bad day. Or you can like summon like money. It's literally like Naruto, where they're dropping like summoning scrolls and like manifesting stuff, kind of like Oprah, but for children. And these people are very close with the Starseeds. I think a lot of them also identify as Starseeds. There's a lot of hashtag crossover. I watching this, I started to blame women for this whole thing. I started to think women are why we have Starseeds. This one's on the ladies. But it turned out that wasn't true, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Although in the certain sense, I do blame Harry Potter. I do blame J.K. Rowling for this, and I think that definitely played a role of people wanting to be, having this fantasy of like, oh, I'm not like a normal person who works at an Amazon warehouse. Like I'm actually a wizard. I have this secret identity that gives me, purpose and meaning. But when I started looking to where this stuff really comes from, like why do we have Starseeds at all? What's like the actual origin of this? The whole idea of Starseeds, all this stuff, witchtok, whatever, it's basically a cargo cult that has formed from random leftovers from the 70s New Age movement. And Starseeds specifically are a concept that was created by a guy named Brad Steger. And Brad Steger wrote a ton of books. He pretty much wrote a book every year. And where he talks about this the most in his book Gods of Aquarius, which that's like an AI generated hippie book name, Gods of Aquarius. And in that book he coins the term, and he says, there's aliens among us walking around looking like people. He came up with the concept. He was a frequent Coast to Coast guest. He was one of those guys. And apart from aliens and starseeds, he also believed in giants. He believed in vampires. He believed in other very Halloween-y sorts of things like werewolves, ghouls, gnomes. He was a gnome believer. And that is where starseeds come from. Starseeds are really, they should be treated as in the same category as gnomes, I think, because they're from the same place. Obviously, none of these, girls on TikTok know about Brad Steger. They probably don't even know about Coast to Coast. But that is the patient zero of Starseeds, is this guy. There's really not too much about him. He wasn't really that interesting. He was a pretty generic, sort of new age crank who wrote all this stuff. I skimmed through Gods of Aquarius a little bit on the Internet Archives. It's very aesthetic. Like it has a good cover, but it's pretty much just random mumbo jumbo. Like he talks about aliens a lot. Ancient aliens, ancient astronauts, that sort of thing. Which, people seem to think that's new too. That's a 50-year-old conspiracy. The other cause of starseeds, from a certain point of view, is the Barnum effect. Because as I mentioned, how they get people to sort of think that they're a starseed is you say, hey, do you feel this way? Does this statement apply to you? Do you feel like you don't belong, or whatever? Oh, that means you're a starseed. So the Barnum effect is usually used to describe astrology and personality tests and stuff like that. And basically, it's this idea that vague descriptions can be given to anyone, and they'll find a way to identify them. Like a lot of astrology stuff is like, you like, do you feel like ambitious, or like, do you sometimes feel lonely? It's like, well, of course, everyone feels those things some of the time. And that's really what's at work with this starseed stuff, too. They've done all sorts of studies on this. My favorite one was when, one of the main guys who like came up with this thing, he had all of his students take a personality test, like a Myers-Briggs type thing. And then he threw all of their results away and just ignored it. And then he handed them all back the exact same like diagnosis, saying like, you are this, you occasionally feel lonely, blah, blah, blah. And the majority of his students said it was accurate. Pretty much most of his students said, oh yeah, you're right. The test works. I really identify with this. Now, the other thing that's a bit lesser known, like I think most people, even if they don't know the name Barnum effect, like they pretty much they get how astrology works. But another thing that's at play here, which is more specific to starseeds, and it's also funnier to me personally, is called source monitoring errors. Source monitoring errors are basically where you remember something correctly, but you remember the source incorrectly. So like a really benign version of this that happens to everyone is you remember a fact, like you remember something, like, oh, that movie was good, but you don't remember who told you that. Like, oh, like which of my, like I don't remember, was that my friend that told me that? Did I read that? Did I see that in some post somewhere? So you don't remember the source. So it's like a source monitoring error. Now there is something that they use to sort of test this in people that they call the fame experiment. So basically they give someone a list of names that are just random. They're not real people. And then they have them look over all the names and they take it back. And then they give the person a new expanded list that has all the names from the first list and famous names from the real world, like Joe Biden, Michael Jackson, etc. And they ask the person to, give the source of each name. So is this a name that came from the list, or is this a name that comes from the real world? And people with schizophrenia do worse on this test than people without, because people with schizophrenia cannot understand the source of things, and they get confused. They don't know like what's in their mind or what's in the external world. So they have very bad source monitoring. So they usually will not pass this test. And the other group of people who does poorly on the fame experiment are people who believe in reincarnation and believe that they can remember things from their past lives, which seems to indicate that people that think they have memories of past lives do not have good source monitoring capabilities because they don't know where they're remembering things from. So these people on TikTok, this is basically what's happening. You did not used to live in a space castle, like a purple space castle, in Sirius. You went to the mall when you were 8, and maybe it was like a big building, and maybe it was purple, and like your mom hit you in the back of the head. That's what actually happened. That's what you're remembering. You have a memory problem. These girls on TikTok they're like an old person lost in a hallway. And you say, oh, you passed your door, like you're going the wrong way. they don't remember which store is theirs anymore. That's them. Except the difference is they're 20 and they're on TikTok. Now this might seem kind of harsh. This might seem like, no, I'm sure that's not literally the case for every person. I'm not saying every Starseed person has, some sort of brain problem. But I think that the people who are really into it and the people who really strongly identify as a Starseed probably do. They probably do have some sort of source monitoring issue. This seems harsh. This seems like, I'm coming down pretty hard on the Starseeds. And if you are a Starseed, you can email me, you can talk to me. It's fine. I don't have a problem with you. And I think that the Starseed people are better than the UFO believer people, the more normal alien community. And they're much more powerful in Chad than the regular alien people. Because regular UFO people, what do? They're like, oh, I see a little dot in the video. There's a little, oh, it moved. It couldn't be a balloon because it's look at how it moved. It's just, oh, Joe Rogan flew over my house. Oh my gosh. But these people are just saying, I am the alien. I'm here. Have aliens visited Earth? Yeah, bitch, I visited Earth right now. To me, that's powerful. And I like these people more than UFO people. Starseeds are also cooler than furries and otherkin. Otherkin are people who believe that they are animals, if you're not up on that. And, they say like, oh, biologically, I'm a man and I'm in my mom's house. But I'm really a wolf. Well, that's lame compared to being an Andromedan. Which would you rather be? If you're gonna live in a fantasy world, like, go for it. Like, pick something cool. Be in, like, Lord of the Rings, The other, what? Now, you may be asking yourself, maybe, probably not, but you may be asking yourself, what is sort of the point of being a starseed? What is the point of knowing that you're a starseed? Well, really, there isn't one. But what the starseed people will say is that they have a grand mission to raise the frequency of the earth and help everyone. And that's why they're here on Earth. They're here so they can help all of us unenlightened humans raise our frequencies, raise our vibrations until we're all just vibing out and we've stopped the reptilians and like David Icke is there and like he's like hugging everyone, just high-fiving, and it's a big party. But for the most part, it seems like Starseeds just go on the internet and make videos and talk about how they remember being in outer space. And they think like, oh, did my mom like hit me at the mall? Like when I was a kid because I was being loud? No, I think that was a space palace. Yeah, that was probably a space palace I lived in. But this doesn't really help anyone. This doesn't really help the vibes, the frequency. But I mean, that's pretty much par for the course when it comes to not just a lot of the new age beliefs, but a lot of conspiracies, a lot of ideologies. It's not really so much about action as it is about identity and about having a good time. It really is just like the Delusional Gaia article pointed out. It's about meeting people, it's about having fun, it's about the friends you make along the way. And those are kind of the real past life memories. The memories you make on TikTok, showing off the crystals and like looking at DeviantArt concept art. And that's what being a starseed is to me. I think that for the next episode, we're going to do something different. You may have noticed, but things have really taken a bit of a new age turn here on the program, which is just because I felt like it. It's just because that's what's interested me at this moment for some reason. But next episode, and probably the next couple episodes, are really steering more back in the conspiracy direction. My co-host could return. He might not. I'm talking to the doctor. You can email me if you want to see pictures of his 3rd-degree burns. You can email me if you have something you'd like to discuss, if you have any questions, you can message me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. statsponconpod. You should also, we have a marketing budget for the show that we get from the federal government, but you should tell your friends to listen. And if they don't listen, you should become angry and confrontational. You should demand an answer as to why they didn't listen. Get up in their face. Get like unreasonably angry with your family and friends if they don't listen. This episode was a little bit late. Hopefully we should be getting back on schedule now. If my co-host can get out of the hospital. And I'll see you then.